Hello everyone, Tina here. I hope your day is going wonderful. Thank you so much for joining me. Well, I'm creating a project today for an Instagram hop that Altenew is having. They're celebrating a brand new mini delight set. Every month Altenew comes out with one of these sets. These are small sets. It's a 2x3 stamp set with a coordinating die, and they're called mini delights. The one that were for January 2021 is called Poppy. And so we're going to create a card using this today. Encourage you guys to follow along in the Instagram hop. Just start at the beginning, the Altenew LLC Instagram page, and then it'll give you details on how to hop along on Instagram. Really fun, and there's chances to win prizes too. This is the Poppy set. I love it. It has a leaf, a poppy, and then you can even have, well, the center is separated. So most of the time poppies have that black center, so the stamp is separated, which makes it really nice. We're going to stamp today with my little floral ink set bundle, starting off with the lightest ink of pink in that set. It's called Frosty Pink. We're going to create 2 different shades. It's a very light ink, so I'm going to stamp it about 3 times just to darken it up a little bit. And then I thought we'd add a little bit of a gradient color. So I'm taking a middle tone pink in that set. It's called Coral Berry, and I'm just going to ink up the edges, kind of rolling around the top of my poppy here, just to have a little bit of gradient color. Love these colors. I think they're so pretty. We'll stamp this, and then for the leaves we're going to basically do the same thing. I'm taking a light green. It's called Frayed Leaf. I'll ink up my leaf a few times here, and then I'm going to take a darker green called Forest Glades and just kind of roll around the edge, the upper portion of my leaf, to give that a gradient color as well. I wanted 2 flowers today and a few leaves. I thought about pulling my card stock down and then stamping another leaf, but we're just going to do the same thing. Flip our panel around, stamp our flower, but this time we're going to use that Coral Berry that we used as a gradient on our first flower. I'm going to create a slightly darker flower here. I'll ink that up, and it stamps beautifully, and then I'm going to do the same thing but with a darker shade of pink. It's called, well, red. It's called Ruby Red, and we'll just roll a little bit of that red on the top, maybe a little on the bottom too, of our poppy, and give this flower a gradient. After we have this done, I'm going to do the same thing that we did with our first leaf, ink it up with Frayed Leaf, and then add a little bit of shading with my Forest Glades, and then our leaf is done. I always like to have, if I have 2 flowers, I always like to have an odd number of leaves. So I'm just going to take that leaf stamp, put it on an acrylic block, and stamp that a few extra times the same exact way. And then we're going to stamp the center of our flowers. In the floral ink set, there is a black ink. It's jet black. So I'll ink up our stamen little piece here, and we'll stamp our poppy center, and it just makes it pop. Love that about poppies. And the nice thing about this set, if you want some long skinny stems, you can just draw them with a Copic marker. I think that's perfect too. But those are my flowers all ready to go. I'm going to take the coordinating die set and die cut out both my flowers, and then just 3 of my leaves. I don't need all, I stamped a couple extra leaves, but we only need 3. I'll just line it up, easy to line up with the coordinating dies, and I'll run this through my die cutting machine. Okay, for my sentiment, I'm going to bring in, we're going to actually die cut out a panel. The panel that I'm using is card front size. I'm going to end up trimming it down after I die cut out my sentiment using this die set here. This is called the Circled Greetings. It's the Hugs die. We'll die cut a window out of our panel, and after we have our window die cut out, I'm going to trim down the panel so it's a little bit smaller than my card base. I thought we would use a real pretty pink card base for our project today. We'll just punch out the little pieces. But I wanted something extra in the background, and I wasn't sure how this is going to turn out. So I'm going to bring in a 3D embossing folder from Altenew. This one here is called the Angled Mosaic. And I'm going to add my sentiment window inside my embossing folder and then run this through my die cutting machine. I wasn't sure how this, like I said, was going to turn out, but I loved it. All those little angles actually looked really pretty on that hug sentiment, so I was happy with that. I would suggest trying that out with your little window dies, but it creates a really neat effect. Okay, I did trim my paper down so it is a little bit smaller than my card base before I ran it through with my embossing folder, so it measures 4 inches by 5 1/4. I added my poppies, just arranged them underneath the hug sentiment, and then I added my leaves. You can see here. I popped up my panel, and originally I was going to put it on the pink, but I thought I did want to bring some black and white baker's twine because of the poppy centers, and I was debating on white or pink, and I opted to go with the white because I thought we would add a little bit of shading behind the hugs too. I'm just going to set my panel aside and then bring in another piece of white cardstock. Now since I trimmed this down, we got to trim down the panel to 4 inches by 5 1/4, and I'll just do that with my paper trimmer. I wanted to do a little bit of shading with one of the green inks. I used the lightest one, the frayed leaf, and then my blending brush. We're going to use our hugs kind of as a guide on where to do a little shading. I just wanted in the bottom half of the window coming up from the flowers. So we're going to use our blending brush and our little mini ink cube here. This is not Bristol Smooth, so I wasn't sure if it was going to blend nice. So I'm starting at the very bottom where you can't see it and then just kind of blending up. So ignore the bottom part, it's going to be covered. But we'll just add a little bit of shading. I love greens and pink. I just think it's so pretty. We're going to add a little bit more towards the H, and then we can go ahead and add our panel, just layering it right on top. If you wanted to do this on top of your card base, you could, but I just found this easier. We're going to line them up, place it over the panel here. Actually, I think I made my panel, when I did my blending, a little bit smaller than 4 inches by 5 1/4, but that's okay. I'm going to glue down the end of my hugs here. It was overlapping on one of my poppies. And once we're done with this, I'm going to bring in my card base. Again, I wasn't sure if I should use the pink or the white, but I was thinking the white for this card. I think both of them looked pretty, but I think the white just looks a little bit more softer. And I think when I added the black and white baker's twine, it's going to really make it stand out. So we're going to add tape behind our panel and add this to our card base. And then we're going to add a few bells and whistles here. But isn't that 3D embossing folder neat? Okay, I have some clear droplets in 2 different sizes. I'm just going to use my glue and add a few inside the window and then a few on top of the flowers like they're a little dew. If you guys don't have these little droplets, you can use glossy accents. I think that would look really pretty too. Just takes a little longer to dry. And then I'm taking some of my black and white baker's twine. I wanted to thread it through my H, but instead I'm going to cheat a little bit. I just tied a bow, and then we're just going to add a little bit of glue to secure it. I'm actually gluing it to the very top of the H in my window here. And we'll let that dry. Trim the tails of our twine, and that finishes off my card today using a small but mighty mini delight set for January 2021. It's called Poppy, and I'll link it down below, and I encourage you guys to join in the Instagram hop. It's so much fun, and there's prizes to be won. Have a great day. Thank you so much for joining me. We will see you soon. Bye-bye.